A while back, I did a video on Aokiji vs every first commander, and it's always been one of my more favorite videos on the channel. Now, being a member of the top tiers, Kuzan and his counterparts are way too strong for the first commanders to handle. But how far would someone on a similar playing field get in the gauntlet? Where would Sanji stop? What's up guys, my name is Verdix, and if you enjoy videos like this, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I put out quality content like this weekly, you won't want to miss. Now, it is only fair that I go over Sanji and his scaling before I go over the first commanders. Sanji's strength is pretty underrated in my opinion, and I think that stems from people heavily underrating Queen's durability. Even when Sanji uses Diable Jambe, Queen isn't getting hurt enough by these attacks. Now, it wasn't just Sanji he was doing this with, as even when Marco was landing hits on him, they still couldn't put him down. Sure, he was sent flying back, but he wasn't dealt serious damage. When Sanji goes into Ifrit Jambe, he utterly dominated and destroyed Queen. The anime adds a bit more of hits onto Queen, whereas in the manga, Sanji just hits him with one combo and sends him flying off the island. Now, in Egghead Island, Sanji's feats for some reason went under the radar, as he was able to damage S-Shark using Diable Jambe. Now, S-Shark and the rest of the Seraphim contain the crazy level of Lunarian durability King has. King, who we'll get into later, is more durable than that of Kaido, and while S-Shark wasn't defeated by Sanji here, he was damaged by him while not even using Ifrit Jambe. Then, later on in the same arc, he goes on to kick the shit out of Nishijuro, which in my personal opinion is a better feat than Zoro clashing with him and both getting sent flowing back. To add more pack to Sanji's kicks, he is able to use Armament Haki, and to help dodge and land attacks, he can look into the future with Advanced Observation Haki, which is something that will definitely be on his side. The level of damage Sanji can output is insane, and his durability and endurance follow suit. As because of his Germa genes, his skin is a lot harder than normal as Queen's sword breaks on impact when touching Sanji. He's also able to take a point-blank Fishman Karate punch from S-Shark with his arms folded, unharmed, and later in the same arc, he was bit down and slammed onto the floor by Nishijuro and wasn't too hurt from it, and later gets hit by Kizaru without being knocked down on his back. On top of all this, if his bones are broken, he can regenerate and fix them. His Germa genes really do give him a lot to work with, but we haven't gotten into what Sanji can really do, and that's disappear. Sanji is a blitz machine with his insane speeds. During Whole Cake Island, he was able to blitz Oven, despite not being nearly as fast as he is now, which will be important discussing a certain character on this list. In Wano, he was able to move so fast that Queen thinks he went invisible. Mind you, he's doing this in base, and this is the same Queen that in base himself could follow with Marco's movements. The same Marco that can keep up with Kizaru in Marineford for a tad bit. Sanji can outspeed this in base, and when he uses Diable and especially Ifrit Jambe, his speed rises immensely. There's no number to quantify this with, but we know this when he uses both of these abilities, all of his stats are amplified by a fuck ton. Sanji in Egghead was even able to move so fast that Zoro didn't even realize he left for a second. This he also did in base as well. Later on, he was able to intercept one of Kizaru's lasers and kick it away before it hit Bonnie. The guy is absolutely cracked in all forms of his stats and is much stronger than your average second commander. Now, to start off our list, we have Shiryu of the Rain. I'm not going to mention the fodder no-name first commanders as they're a waste of time and nobody's really concerned about them. Shiryu just barely makes this list, to be honest. I know some people might consider Kuzan to be the first commander, but he's not a commander at all, more of an ally that works alongside them, similar to Law with the Straw Hats. Shiryu himself suffers from a lack of feats at the moment, and because of that, it doesn't really help his PR. For the longest time, all we knew about this guy was he used to guard Impel down, and he has the power to go invisible. However, this power to go invisible is straight up ass and irrelevant. The reason I say this is because during Kuzan's fight against Garp, Shiryu would try to catch Kobe off guard and stab him in the back, but Garp saw this coming and stepped in the way. Think about that. Shiryu is able to turn invisible, but can be seen. So what the fuck is the point of his Devil Fruit? Garp not only saw him, but he stepped in the way and was able to grab him while still invisible and slam him into the ground. This attack also does a lot of damage as Shiryu is bleeding and stuck on the ground. We don't see any more from him, and as far for the battle with Sanji goes, well, he is getting made a fool of. He will be seen by Sanji since Garp did and he can use Future Sight himself. He would also be able to blitz the living shit out of Shiryu, since there's literally no speed feats he has yet shown that's really of note. If Garp slamming him into the ground without any special named attack was enough to keep him down, all Sanji has to do is speed around Shiryu and hit him with some combo attacks. One combo attack and Shiryu is getting sent flying across the island like Queen was. You can also argue that Shiryu's sword will break when coming into contact with Sanji, since he has shown nothing worthy with it yet. Realistically, unless he shows some crazy feats against Zoro or someone, Shiryu is just gonna be a bum for now. There's just nothing he is capable of to defeat Sanji. Next up on the gauntlet is the Donut Man, Katakuri. Pretty much all of his feats stem from his fight with Luffy in Whole Cake Island, where Katakuri delivers an onslaught of attacks onto Luffy, but can't put him down. I don't exaggerate when I say onslaught, as Katakuri hit Luffy 123 times, but could only take 13 hits from Luffy. Not just any Luffy, but Whole Cake Island Luffy that couldn't even put a dent on base Kaido. Sanji is damaging opponents with skin harder than even hybrid Kaido. Even though Katakuri has insane speeds and very fine with the use of Future Sight, Sanji excels better than both of those than Katakuri does. If Katakuri tries to land an attack onto Sanji, Sanji can simply avoid the attack and land multiple of his own. Mind you, Luffy not only wasn't as strong as he is now, but he wasn't as fast, as he couldn't keep up with Kaido when first arriving at Wano, but at the end was blitzing him and even able to somewhat keep up with Kizaru in Egghead Island. Not only does Sanji have speeds greater than Marco, who like Luffy can keep up with Kizaru for a bit, but literally does it by kicking away his laser. Katakuri isn't near this level of speed, and his Future Sight won't be much of an effect. As we learned with his battle against Luffy, Kaido is moving faster than Future Sight could keep up with. Sanji being faster than Kaido would make it to where Future Sight wouldn't even work for Katakuri here. He can't keep up with Sanji in any stat whatsoever, and if you in the big 2025 genuinely believe Katakuri is still relevant in strength, you gotta do some rethinking, my man. After Katakuri is going to be King the Wildfire. This guy, like I stated earlier, is most noticeable for his incredible defenses. When his flames are on, his defenses rise up so much that attacks that hurt Kaido fail to do so against King. Even Marco was struggling to apply real damage to King during their scuffle. However though, if you obtain the AP to get past his incredible durability, you're going to have a good chance against King here. As I know they were sword attacks, but only 3 hits from Zoro was enough to put down King. These attacks were never really life-threatening, as Oda has been too scared to kill recently for some reason, and the final attack Zoro landed only cut off one of King's wings. However, his high defenses aren't the only thing he's exceptional at, as if he decides to turn his flames off, he can move at insane speeds. Zoro immediately takes note of this and knows he cannot keep up with King's movements, and in order to counter this, he has to stand in place and react as quick as he can against King. He actually does achieve this despite King being as fast as he is, and when the flames are off, he might be a lot faster, but he's sure as hell a lot more vulnerable to attacks, as that durability will no longer be there until he turns his flames back on. He also does taunt these abilities a lot during his fight with Zoro, and Zoro quickly picked up on this. As for his strength, well, King is in a bit of that unknown tier, as his strongest attacks never actually hit Zoro and they were cut through, so we can't say for sure how strong this attack is, other than it's weaker than whatever Zoro is capable of. His strikes aren't the most effective in the verse, as Zoro is getting hit with a lot of these attacks while simultaneously having his haki drained by Enma. Reminder that Zoro's bones were all broken not too long before this fight from Kaido and Big Mom. King's most noticeable attacks are when he pulls his head back and uses it as a slingshot that Zoro refers to as beam-like. He also has his sword that can clash with Zoro's, but these attacks are going to prove too dull on Sanji. Even if he lands his beam-like attacks, Sanji can regenerate his bones and end up just fine. The one thing that King really lacks is his haki feats, as he has practically none at all, and this is going to be something that holds him back. As against Sanji here, his flames are going to hurt him one way or another. This is because if his flames are on, Sanji's speed will be so intense that King can't keep up. On top of this, in Diable Jambe, he was able to damage S-Shark, and if he were to have used Ifrit, things would have been bad for S-Shark and even King. If he decides to turn his flames off to keep up with Sanji, he is still going to be outpaced, and the damage will be immense. On top of this, the attacks King attempted can be foreseen with Future Sight, and this really goes against King's favor. Now, something that is similar to King but not as extreme is that the extent of Sanji's strength isn't too exact, as we don't know the limit of what Ifrit can do, as like I said earlier, he obliterated Queen the moment he unlocked it, and there's been no wall that's been really met yet, but we do know at the bare minimum, it does do damage to Lunarians with their flames on, as Sanji achieved this with Diable Jambe. He's also able to hurt Zoro with these attacks as well. Sanji has a lot more going for him than King does, and his strength, speed, and endurance outshines King's. Even his flames are stronger, since they are blue flames, which are scientifically proven to be hotter than regular orange flames that King can produce. Ultimately though, Sanji is going to force King to turn his flames off to keep up with his speed, but that will lead into King getting obliterated with combos from Sanji that he cannot endure. It's a bad battle for King, and Sanji is walking away with another win under his belt. The guy that we have name dropped a few times now already is Marco. The man is certainly a formidable opponent, as during Marineford, he was able to keep up with and clash with Kizaru for a bit, even though yes, Kizaru was holding back. However though, we do see how his hacks are insane, as Marco can regenerate from attacks, and his flames are able to counter the likes of Big Mom, Kaido, Kizaru, and even Akainu. These are because of his flames being able to absorb these attacks, which is an insane ability. But it's not just his hacks that can keep him at the level of a first commander, as his striking strength is very impressive. During Wano, he was able to overpower and be on the winning side of a fight against both King and Queen. While both characters were not going all out, the fact he was able to do this at all is still definitely an impressive feat. He was also able to clash with Big Mom for a bit before being literally snatched out of the air by her, which is something people don't really mention all too much when talking about Marco. He also, like King, doesn't have many hockey feats to work off of. Against Sanji, that will play into an effect, as their flames would cancel out each other, but the big edge for Sanji here is his speed and stamina. As this fight is very close, but Marco, after using his regeneration along with the rest of his powers, becomes very tired and can't spam these moves for too long. Sanji in base was performing better speed feats than Marco, let alone what he would do in Ifrit Jambe. Sanji, in my personal opinion, outspeeds and has better nutrition than Marco does, and this gives him the edge in this fight. Even if Marco gets close to Sanji, Sanji, unlike Marco, can use Future Sight to avoid attacks, and on top of this, they both have blue flames and will counter out each other's heat. Even if Marco does land a big hit that breaks Sanji's bones, he can regenerate them, and it doesn't cost him nearly as much stamina as when Marco does it. Sanji narrowly gets past Marco here. Now, another flame user we have to discuss is Sabo. While he might not be a traditional first in command, he is still labeled one by Oda himself, and it's a fun discussion for you guys nonetheless. Sabo's debut in Dressrosa was not a bad one to say the least. He was able to easily overpower Burgess and even clash with the suppressed Fujitora for a short time. This was all while just obtaining his newfound fire powers, and before this, he was already a capable fighter of his own, as he has exceptional armament hockey, seemingly to be advanced, and has embedded Dragon's fighting style into his own arsenal. Now, for the longest time, people assumed Sabo was the one who gave Fujitora the wound in the Reverie, but this was false, as it turned out that Greenbull was the one to do this, and Sabo did not interact with the admirals at all during his time in the Reverie. Instead, he was in the throne room, trying to help Cobra escape, where the Sabo slander comes into play, as this guy wasn't able to withstand an attack from Imu better than Cobra. Now granted, this was Imu of all fucking people, and normally I would say alright, fuck it, whatever, but to have an old man who is not even a fighter get up before you and save you is very questionable. Now, you guys know Sanji would get every shit in the book if this happened to him, so keep the same energy here. Another negative against Sabo is that he has like no speed feats. There's nothing he does that can even get him close to Sanji's level of speed. The level of speed Sanji obtains isn't something that you can just assume someone's to be faster than if they haven't gave you good reason. Sabo has no speed feats of note to mention here, meaning he gets absolutely speed blitzed by Sanji. And on top of this, Sanji is able to overpower Sabo's flames with his own since they are hotter than his. Sabo really suffers from a lack of feats, and I'm sure he will show us great showings in the later arcs, but as for now, he just doesn't have what it takes, or at least hasn't showed us he does, to beat Sanji. Now, if Sanji were to go after and fight anyone on this list first, it would most definitely be Zoro. I talked about this long before, and if you remember my answer then, well, it has not changed, as Zoro was able to permanently scar the likes of Kaido after having all his bones broken. He is also the first person on this list that is in possession of Advanced Conqueror's Haki, and when applied, he was able to defeat the likes of King and Lucci with it, and like I said, scar Kaido. Kaido and King are characters with exceptionally tough durability, yet Zoro is able to get past it, and on top of this, he is able to follow along and react to King's movements and successfully land attacks onto him. His AP clearly outshines Sanji's, and because of Zoro's swords, Sanji can't just clash with his blades. The only upside for Sanji here is his speed, which will allow him to land a few attacks in on Zoro here. However, this is a Zoro that was able to block and withstand all his bones being broken from Ocean Serenity and continue to fight. Sanji cannot apply this level of damage to Zoro, even with his insane speeds. If Zoro hits Sanji with something like Dragon Damnation or Ashura, Sanji is fucked. There's just nothing for him to do. Zoro has a lot more ways to withstand attacks and deal a killing blow onto Sanji here. This is where Sanji stops in the gauntlet. Now, even though Sanji is lost, I still want to very quickly go over how he does against the last two remaining opponents on this list. As Beckman, while might not have many feats at all, is one of those guys we have to assume to be stronger than Sanji, as the man is comparable to fucking Shanks of all people, and was easily able to shoot off Kid's arm. We don't really know how he can keep up with Sanji's speed, but his strength is ridiculous if it's near Shanks, and Sanji just can't keep up with this straight up. Now, the last guy to discuss briefly is of course Dark King Silver's Rayleigh. If he and Sanji were to fight, it wouldn't even be close. Even if Sanji were to land attacks onto him, Rayleigh can keep up with Kizaru and has all three advanced Haki types. Realistically, a few big hits in from Rayleigh onto Sanji will just end him, and just like with Beckman, Rayleigh is in a tier of strength too high for Sanji to handle. Well, that's it for you guys. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and leave a like. It really helps with the algorithm and is very appreciated. As always, shout out to Tiberius for the thumbnail. He makes quality thumbnails for me all the time. And if you would like some of your own, hit him up on Twitter, link in the description, as well as my Twitter @Verdicts_ for more of my takes. And without further ado, you guys can get out of here.